example of this piece.
And the Spanish coastline.
And the Spanish coastline.
Which is in so many.
This is the one I told you about yesterday. You had left, Juan, but I'll tell you about the story of this. So, back in the late 60s, Argillet decided to have a press conference with Dalí. And every time they did a press conference with Dalí, everybody showed up. All the television networks would show up. Whenever they showed up at a press conference for Dalí, he was one of the most famous people in the world. Everybody, all the print media showed up, radio would show up, because what is this outrageous Dalí going to do? So they called this press conference and it was an absolute full room. And Dalí showed up and he was acting very strange. And he had a bodyguard with him, which was very strange. And not just an attendant, but a bodyguard. So he came in and he was looking very weird, and Argillet had staged it as Dalí's going to show us how he works on a copper plate. So normally you would grab a stylus like this. He grabbed it like this and went over to the plate like this, went and started grinding on the plate. And then almost like a mic drop, dropped the stylus and ran out of the room. And all these journalists were all over the place. And Argillet was mortified, screaming at him, "Come back, come back." I mean, the whole press conference had taken a minute, and all he had done was this circle here. And, like a madman. So he left, and he went back to the Maurice Hotel, and he refused to let anybody in his room when he had the bodyguard stand at the door. So a couple days later, he invited Argillet back, and Argillet went and he said, what was that? He said, Dalí never drank or took drugs. But that afternoon, he had met with Timothy Leary. And Timothy Leary was, the tune in, turn on, drop out. Mm-hmm. And Timothy Leary gave him acid. So he showed up and it affected him more than most people would have been affected, because he was not. Yeah, so apparently it was like a psychotic moment. So he says, "Don't worry, I will make give me the plate, and I will make the most beautiful etching you ever saw." And so we created this, and this is called Women in the Waves, and it had to do with the girls, and this used to mortify the Indians, by the way. The hippie girls used to get naked and go swim in the Indian Ocean. And India is a very conservative country in a lot of ways. You think of them as being open-minded, and they're not, especially a conservative area, because Goa was really populated by Portuguese, and there was a big Catholic influence there. So these naked girls were down in Goa, and this was outrageous. So anyway, he was showing these women in the waves, and again, he did the same thing as he did with this. He did a split fountain, where he put brown on one side and black on the other. And what's remarkable about the printmaking techniques, again, this speaks to the collaborative nature of these wonderful artisans to be able to create this beautiful an image with all this ethereal hair and different figures in it and so on. So this is one of these ones that people just love, because it tells a lot of stories, and plus, it's just the workmanship is so beautiful. So, back to the whole thing about Argillet and Dalí. The stuff they created together was remarkable in all his oeuvre. Of the 1,400 different editions, these 200 editions are the best of the best. There are certain other images that I covet over the years, that I've owned over the years. There's one from the 40s that was, interestingly enough, which was created by the Cleveland Print Club. He did it in 1947, one called St. George and the Dragon, which I've owned once, and I'll own again someday, but every time I want to buy, it's too expensive. It's like buying the Thomas R. Benton, the race that I want to buy for you. It was $12,000, but now it's $20,000, and I make a little more money, and I go, I can pay $12,000. Well, no, it's not. Anyway, one of those. And then the other one's called Grasshopper Child from the 30s. The ones that just really show what his mastery was. And he's one of the greatest printmakers in history. Now, there are also several hundred fake bad editions that were done from the 70s on. It's unfortunate, because that's what colored his career. Now, what's happening is history is rewriting all this. And we're rediscovering, and people are recognizing, and collectors are recognizing what the good stuff was. He was not complicit in it. I'm absolutely 100% convinced he did not know what was going on. But the managers and publishers who were doing things really tarnished his legacy. But he is still one of the greatest artists of the 20th century, one of the greatest artists in art history, an innovator. and one of the finest printmakers in art history. So it's one of those things that we're proud to be part of. The last set over here is the Don Juan. I never had any of the Don Juans with Christine, but they're based on the story of Don Juan, obviously. And I don't know anything about them other than the fact they're good dollies, they're pretty, and they were done in the early 70s. So you guys can look up the story of Don Juan.
I'm reading it now.
Pardon me?
I'm reading it now.
Are you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously what he would do is Dalí would always interpret things and put his imprimatur on things. He would Dalinize everything. So this is the first time I've ever seen these actually, because Christine didn't have any. So anyway, that's the collection. I'm fast forwarding this because there's a lot of information. Do you guys have any questions or comments? Or?
No, that was really insightful.
Yeah, thank you.
Stuff, huh?
So I'm.
Yeah, no, it's really good, the stories, and then we'll read the books, and then,
It's a deal this week we didn't get to. Venus and First.
Venus and First. Now, Venus and First, interesting enough, was by Swatch and Wasatch. They're
These are very strong.
Yeah.
They're extraordinarily strong. And the etching work is, and these are two of the most popular
These are
pieces.
the two.
To a lot of people, by the way, not only are these bestsellers from the set, to a lot of people, these represent Dalí. I mean, the wing.
Are these? Yeah. Thank you.
we'll put these in the back room, in the viewing room.
I mean, these are so
We're
strong.
gonna put these
And look at
These don't have a home
in
in
the viewing room.
And look at this. He talked about the drawers of memory, because we have secret drawers of memory. We all have secrets. So he's incorporated one of
Look
his
at the
main symbols.
crown.
Oh, there's just so many.
There's a lot of imagery in
Well, Venus
this.
and First
Yeah.
was the
I
story.
would make a case to put this in the main exhibition.
Well, again,
I mean, you move the petite news maybe, because they're part of a colonial, but they're not as significant as.
these are significant. What it was
These feel very strong.
Such which was the origin of sadomasochism.
It's a story about.
Yeah, it's a story about B&D. I mean, and he was fascinated by it. He was fascinated by all. Yeah, so. But this is one of the biggest sellers always, because to a lot of people,
It just feels very iconic. Feels
Exactly.
Dalídian. Is that a
exactly, it absolutely is a word. These feel very Dalínian, but I will tell you, we've had galleries in surprising places, by the way. We have galleries, and there's a couple other that are even more.
There's some that are.
Yeah, like Warrior's Rest and Circe, which are very sexual. It was interesting because we did a show in San Francisco, and they refused to show.